Hello and welcome to the second episode of Teja Teaches. What we are going to do here, just like what we did in the first episode of Teja Teaches, is some questions, must-do questions of arithmetic, which are actually taken from the last 3, 4, 5 years of CAT itself. See, arithmetic typically forms roughly 50%, 40 to 50% of the paper of quantitative ability, and we have discussed that in the previous episode. Those of you who haven't seen that, please go and watch that video as well. So today, taking forward what we discussed last time we discussed percentages. This time we are going to extend that logic of percentages to a concept like simple interest and compound interest. Again, simple interest and compound interest is one of the most important topics of arithmetic, because typically in every year and every slot you will find at least one odd question, if not more, from simple interest and compound interest. And actually looking at it, it is nothing but a straight extension of what we have learned in percentage. Though people would want to believe probably that there are some formulae in this, I'll also talk about those formulae, but I would want you to look at this particular concept as a logical concept rather than a concept that is based on a formula. So when we are solving questions, let us try and apply logic rather than the formula itself. All right, so let's get started with our discussion. So yeah, must know concepts, arithmetic 2. We are going to discuss simple interest and compound interest today. So before we begin solving the questions, some notes to take. What is important in SI and CI? For those of you who don't know, most of you must know already how to go about questions of simple interest and compound interest. For those of you who don't know, the universe of simple interest is pretty simple, pretty small and very very minute. उससे ज़्यादा उसके बाद है नहीं कुछ. सिंपल इंटरेस्ट के क्वेश्चन में ज्यादा दम हो नहीं सकता है इन जनरल, बिकॉज उसकी दुनिया बहुत छोटी है. सो लेट्स टेक अ लुक एट व्हाट आर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग्स. When there is a principal amount P, money grows at a rate of interest R. The rate at which money grows, or the percentage at which money grows, is called the rate of interest. And if the time period is given as T years, then simple interest is equal to P into R into T upon 100. And this is what all of us know, and because we have gone to school is what I believe. I hope all of you have also gone to school just like I did, and you would have seen this formula. Now this, my friends, is nothing but the universe of simple interest. Simple interest is P into R into T upon 100. And then if you have to calculate what is the total amount will be equal to P plus SI. The principal plus simple interest will be the total amount accrued after a time period of T years at a rate of interest R. Let's look at compound interest. Compound interest is a little complicated. As the name suggests, it is compounded. So what is compound interest? To my mind, it is nothing but successive growth. Successive percentage growth. Nothing but successive percentage growth. For example, let us take a simple small example. If I have 100 rupees and I make it grow by 10% once, 10% of 100 is 10. So if you add 10, it will become 110 over here. Now again, if I make this grow by 10%, now you will apply this 10% to this 110 and not to the initial 100 rupees that is invested. So this 10% of 110, the addition that will happen over here is 11 rupees. That means the total sum 110 plus 11 will become 121 after increasing it twice by the same percent 10. And you can see that is overall increase over here is 21%. 21%. Now this is what is successive increase by the same percentage. You have increased it by 10% once and again by 10% later on. You will see that instead of the total growth being 20%, the total growth in this case will be 21%. What is important over here is that for the second year or for the second time, the base of calculation itself is the amount after the first time. This is amount after the first time and this is the amount after the second time you have increased it. So the base of calculation for the second term itself is the amount after the first term. That is something that you need to keep in mind. So interest is applicable not only over the initial principal, it is also applicable over the interest that is accrued. And that is how compound interest is a little more lethal than simple interest is. So in the world of compound interest, you cannot typically directly find what is the compound interest accrued, but you can generally find what is the total amount. So if you have a principal P, rate of interest R, and if that is increasing or growing for n terms, this is the number of terms, this is not number of years. If it is compounded annually, the number of terms will be equal to number of years. But if it is compounded semi-annually or half-yearly, then you will say that the number of terms is twice as many as the number of years. And that is where it becomes a little complicated. Please understand, n is the number of terms, meaning itne bar, n times wo grow hua hai, utne percent se is what we have to understand, right? So if we have P, R and N, we say A is equal to the amount in compound interest is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power N. P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power N. So what is important over here is that we understand this factor 1 plus R by 100, this factor which we call multiplication factor for R% growth. Multiplication factor for R% growth. So we need to keep certain multiplication factors handy with us. What are those multiplication factors we need to keep handy with us? Let us say that the rate of interest is 5%. What will be 1 plus R by 100? 1 plus R by 100 will be 105 by 100. You either write it as 105 by 100 or you write it as 21 by 20 to reduce the effort in calculation. Similarly, if the rate of interest is 10%, 1 plus R by 100 comes down to 110 by 100, which will be equal to 11 by 10. Rate of interest is 15%, you will find that 1 plus R by 100 is 23 by 20, and rate of interest is 20%, you will find that 1 plus R by 100 is equal to 12 by 10. Now people will have a tendency, generally the students have a tendency to convert this 12 by 10 into 6 by 5, which is absolutely right. Nothing wrong in converting this 12 by 10 into 6 by 5, but I would prefer keeping it 12 by 10 because I would rather work with a 10 in a denominator than 5 in the denominator. Because 10 se cancel karna zyada aasan hai boss numerator ko, so I'll keep it as 12 by 10. So these are some basic important notes that you need to take. The other important thing is there is one formula that you should probably know. It is actually only derived through observation, that the compound interest earned and the simple interest earned for the second year. So if the time period is 2 years, then the compound interest earned and the simple interest earned will have a difference of P into R square by 100 square. P into R square by 100 square. So this is an important relation. And let's also see some other important points. First of all, knowing squares or cubes will help in your calculation. Squares or cubes, I would say rather up to 30 will help in your calculation. Why am I saying so? Because 1 plus R by 100 whole power N, when you are doing, if the time period or the number of terms is 3 years, then you should know what is 1 plus R by 100 whole cube. For example, here if you have to do 1 plus R by 100 whole cube, you should know what is 21 cube. Knowing 21 cube will typically help solving the question faster for you. So that is why knowing squares or cubes up to 30 will be very handy, will come very handy. Time period or number of terms in most questions will be either 2 years or 3 years, not more than that. Either 2 terms or 3 terms, not more than that. So when you are actually solving some practice questions through random sources, through various sources, there will be some high level questions, level 3, level 4 kind of questions, high level questions which will actually test your understanding, in 4 years, 5 years kind of questions. But if you actually look at any of the last 4-5 years of CAT, you'll find that time period in most questions will be restricted to 2 years or 3 years. So you don't need to extend that to so much, right? So keep all these percentage increase values handy for 2 years and 3 years. Simple interest and compound interest for the first year are equal. Irrespective of it is simple interest or compound interest, the first year the interest earned will be equal. Principal in the for in compound interest for the second year is the amount after the first year. This is one thing that we need to keep in mind, that which will come in very handy. Assume values to calculate in terms of percentage. Now most of the questions of SICI, there will be some absolute values given already in the question. या तो प्रिंसिपल का वैल्यू दिया होगा या प्रिंसिपल फाइंड करने बोल रहा होगा. I would rather say assume a value like 100 or 1000 or 10,000 for principal, which will make your calculations easier, and calculate everything in terms of percentage. And then let the absolute value come into picture. The last step is comparing it with the absolute value. That is what we are going to see anyway. So having said all of these things, let's get started with solving some questions on SI and CI. The other thing is keep multiplication factors handy, that I have already spoken about. So this is a CAT 2020 slot 2 question. Question 1. For the same principal amount, compound interest for 2 years at 5% per annum exceeds simple interest for 3 years at 3% per annum. So there are two parts to the question. First part is compound interest. Second part is simple interest. Let us see what will happen. The compound interest for 2 years exceeds simple interest for 3 years at 3% per annum at by rupees 1125. Now this is a percentage value. This is a percentage value, while this is an absolute value. Find the principal amount in rupees is the question. Find the principal amount in rupees is the question. So what I'll do typically in such a case is, if just look at it, look and observe how I will assume values of principal. Let us say I have 100 rupees. I grow it by 10% first, I'll get an integer over here. Again, if I grow it by 10%, I'll still get an integer. But the next time if I grow it by 10%, I will not get an integer. So this is where I realize ki boss, wherever there is not an integer, a number appears in the calculation which is not an integer, that troubles me. I am not very comfortable while dealing with decimals. I want to deal in integers. So what I'll do is I'll add one more zero to this. This will become this much, and this will become this much, and this becomes 1331. Right? So I'll take the principal as 100 or 1000 or 10,000 depending on how many times, what is the multiplication factor involved. For example, for a 10% growth for 3 years, the multiplication factor involved is 11 by 10 whole cube. 11 by 10 whole cube. So I'll take the principal to be a multiple of 10 cube to get everything cancelled off. And my direct answer of amount becomes 11 cube. Right? Similarly, if I have to take the multiplication, if the rate of interest is 5%, like in this question, rate of interest is 5%, multiplication factor 105 by 100, and if it is for 2 years, 105 by 100 whole square is what my multiplication factor is. So the P that I will typically take a multiple of 10,000, 1,100 whole square, which is, I will assume the principal to be 10,000, because already I am mindful what value to assume. So for this question, I'll assume the value of the principal to be 10,000. So let us say that my assumed value is of principal is 10,000. For goodness sake, let us write 10,000x and see what happens. If it increases by 5% per annum, if the compound interest is 5% per annum, then the amount in this case will become 10,000x into 1 plus r by 100 whole square, which is 105 whole square upon 100 whole square. 105 whole square upon 100 whole square. So the amount becomes 105 whole square into x, which is 11025x. So what is the compound interest I have earned in this case? It will be equal to 1025x. Okay, keep that aside. What is the second part of the question? There is a simple interest happening at 3% per annum for 3 years. Okay, and the principal is same even in this case. So in this case, if the principal is 10,000x, rate of interest is 3%, time period is 3 years. That means the total overall growth will be 3 into 3, 9%. So 9% growth over this, 9% growth over this will be equal to 900, 900x. Now one place I have got 1025x, other place I have got 900x. The difference between compound interest of 2 years and simple interest of 3 years is 125x. Till now I have only dealt in percentages by assuming some value. Now comes the absolute value into the picture. How much is the absolute value? 1125. 125x is 1125. That means x is equal to 9. The moment x is equal to 9, the principal amount 10,000x will be equal to 90,000, and that is my answer. 90,000, and that is my answer. Let's take a look at the second question. A person invested a certain amount of money at 10% annual interest, compounded half yearly. So compounded half yearly, this is where it becomes tricky, right? Some of the students will probably not know what to do in such a case. I'll tell you what to do in such a case. Look at this, 10% annual interest. What does this literally mean? It literally means कि 10% से बढ़ेगा एक साल में. It will grow by 10% in one bloody year. So if you are compounding it half yearly, in half a year, it should ideally grow only by 5%. Na? If it is growing by 10% in 1 year, it should grow by half of the rate of interest in a half a year. So only 5% is the growth. So I'll take R to be 5%. 1.5 years. So for if the time period is 1.5 years, how many half year terms are there? How many half yearly terms are there? Number of terms becomes 3, and the interest and principal together become this much. So this is what amount, the amount in rupees that the person had invested. What is the principal is the question. What is the principal is the question. You know R, you know N, you know A, you have to find P. So it becomes pretty simple. If R is equal to 5%, R is equal to 5%, then 1 plus R by 100, the multiplication factor, we saw this will become 21 by 20. We saw it will become 21 by 20. So let us look at that. 21 by 20. So in this case, amount is equal to P into 1 plus R by 100 whole cube. So the amount 18522 is equal to P is what we have to find. 1 plus R by 100 whole cube is 21 by 20 whole cube. Now this is where I said cubes will come in handy. 21 whole cube is what? 9261. So 9261 upon 8000 P is equal to 18522. And 9261 exactly divides this number twice. So P, my principal, will be equal to 16,000. My principal in this case will be equal to 16,000. That should be my correct answer. That should be my correct answer. This is a CAT 2020 slot 3 question. Let's take a look at CAT 2019 slot 2. A invests rupees 12,000 at 8% interest compounded annually, and rupees 10,000 at 6% interest compounded semi-annually, both investments being for 1 year. B invests his money at 7.5% simple interest. So there are two parts to it. Something that A is doing and something that B is doing. And A is doing 2 investments, mind you. So this much is what A is doing and B is doing something else. Okay. For A, the principal for the first part is 12,000. Principal for the first part is 12,000. Rate of interest is 8%. Compounded annually. And for A, the second part, principal is 10,000. Rate of interest is 6% per annum. 6% per annum. So 6% per annum compounded semi-annually will become what? Rate of interest will become half, 3%, and both investments being for 1 year. So N over here is 2 because there are 2 half-year terms over here. 2 half-year terms over here, while N over here is 1 because only 1 full-year term which is over here. Okay. Bimal invests his money at 7.5% per annum. So R in this case, rate of interest is 7.5%. for 1 year. T is equal to 1 year. T is equal to 1 year. If A and B get the same amount of interest, then the amount in rupees invested by Bimal is how much? A and B get the same amount as interest. A and B receive same amount as interest. So let us find out. Let us find out how much is that A is going to get as interest. So if he is investing 12,000 bucks and it is only growing once by 8%, that means the growth will be equal to 960 rupees, and this is the compound interest earned in this case, 960. In the second case, if he is investing 10,000, it increases by 3% first. It becomes 10300. 10300. Next time again it increases by 3%. Next time again it increases by 3%. 103 whole square is what it will become. It will become 10609. So the compound interest in this case is 10609 minus 10,000, which is equal to 609 rupees. So what is the total interest earned by? What is the total interest earned by A? The total interest earned by A is the sum of 960 and 609, 1569. This should be equal to the simple interest earned by B. This should be equal to the simple interest earned by B, where I don't know what is P. I don't know. I know what is R. Number of years is 1 upon 100. How much did B invest is the question. So that is what I have to figure out. What is P over here? So this seems to be a calculation based question again. This seems to be a calculation based question again. So P 7.5 upon 100 can be written as 3 upon 40. 3 upon 40. 3 will divide this 523 times. 523 times. 523 into 40 is what P is. So 523 into 4. 4 3s are 12. 4 2s are 8. 4 5s are 20. 4 5s are 20. So what you have is 2902. 20920 is the total amount that he has invested. 2920 is the amount that this gentleman has invested. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at this question. Question 4, CAT 2018 slot 1. This is an installment based question, and many people have a habit of डर जाने का एकदम से इंस्टॉलमेंट देख लिया तो डर गया. But these are typically easy questions. You need to understand what is the mechanism of installments. Once you understand that, you will get the answer pretty quickly. So John borrowed 2,10,000 from a bank at a rate of interest of 10% per annum, compounded annually. The loan was repaid in 2 equal installments. The first one after the first year and the second one after the second year. The first installment was interest plus 1 year part of the principal amount, while the second installment was the rest of the principal amount plus due interest thereon. Then each installment is how much? So what we need to understand here is that there are 2 equal installments. Both installments are equal. Both installments are equal. The rate of interest is a good number, 10%. You know how to calculate 10% rate of interest. So let us see what we can do with this. So just visualize what is happening. Break the question down into smaller parts. So first year, if I am investing 2,10,000, 2,10,000, for all we know, let us write this number as 210 because there are too many zeros over here. For all we know, let us write it as 210 because too many zeros over here. Right? If I take a loan of 210 rupees, if I take a loan of 210 rupees, and if that grows by 10%, how much will be the additional value added in the first year? It will be 21 rupees. That means it becomes 231 at the end of the first year. But this is where the gimmick is. After the first year, I paid my installment X rupees. I paid my installment X rupees. So if I am paying my installment of X rupees out of 231, what is the amount left, or what is the outstanding loan amount? It will be 231 minus X. Now this 231 minus X is what is going to grow by 10%. 231 minus X is what is going to grow by 10%. right? And what should it become? Please understand, if you want to get the loan cleared after the second year, if you want to get the loan cleared after the second year, that means you are typically looking at the second year's installment itself to be equal to the outstanding amount. So 231 minus x into 1.1, because the growth rate is 10%, 231 minus x into 1.1 should be equal to x, or you can write it like this: 231 minus x into 11 by 10, it should be equal to x. Because the growth rate is 10%, it will get multiplied by 1.1. 1.1, I don't like decimals, as I told you. I'll rather do a 11 by 10 over here. So what I'll get is 231 into 11, 231 into 11, which is 230 plus 230, sorry, 2310 plus 231, 2310 plus 231, which is equal to 2541, 2541 minus 11x should be equal to 10x. So 20x. So we have 21x is equal to 2541. 21x should be equal to 2541. Once we divide this 2541 divided by 21, I should get my answer. So I will get over here 21 ones are 21, 21 ones are 21. We are left with 441. 441, so I'll get 121 over here. So x must be equal to 121. So if my loan was 210 rupees, my installment should be equal to 121. If my loan was 210 rupees, my installment should be equal to 121, right? Because my loan was equal to 2,10,000, my installment should be equal to 121,000. Now you may ask me, sir, आपने तो उसको ब्रेक करके किया है, काफी लंबा किया है. Is there a direct formula for this? Yes, there exists a direct formula for installment also. There exists a direct formula also for this. What is the principle we know? Right? P is equal to x by 1 plus r by 100 plus x by 1 plus r by 100 whole square, so on up to as many terms are there. Now because in this question there are only two terms, we will only do x by 1 plus r by 100 and x by 1 plus r by 100 whole square. This is what your installment amount is. Installment is x. P is the principal that you have taken. Even using that formula, you will get the same answer: 121,000. 121,000. Let's take a look at this last and final question. This is a CAT 2020 slot 1 question. Viru invested rupees 10,000 at 5% simple annual interest. 5% 10,000. And exactly after 2 years, Joy invested something else at some 10% annual interest. How many years after Viru's investment were their balances? That means the total amount invested plus the interest be equal for both Viru and Joy. So there are two parties. One is Viru and one is Joy. For Viru, the principal is 10,000. 10,000. Rate of interest is 5%. So 5% of 10,000 is how much? 5% on 10,000 is how much? Simple interest earned every year will be equal to 5% of 10,000, which is 500. So if the number of years we calculate for Viru is x, then the total simple interest of x years will be 500x. And the total amount of Viru will now become 10,000 plus 500x. देखो 5% से ग्रो हो रहा है हर साल. 5% is 500 rupees. X years if it is there, the total simple interest will be 500x and the total amount will be 10,000 plus 500x. That is the amount for Viru. Let's look at Joy. Joy invested 8,000 rupees 2 years after that. So principal is 8,000. Rate of interest is 10%. 10% of 8,000 is 800. 800 is the simple interest accrued every year. 800 is the simple interest accrued every year. The time period for which Joy should invest is the question. Now, because Viru started 2 years ago, Viru started 2 years earlier, we can say the time for which Joy will invest is x minus 2 years. x minus 2 years. That means the total simple interest earned in x minus 2 years for joy will be equal to 800 x minus 2, 800 x minus 2, and the total amount of joy will be equal to 8000 plus 800 x minus 2. That is what we know. Now we have to simply equate these two. Amount of Viru and amount of joy is what we have to equate to find how many years is x years. So 10,000 plus 500x should be equal to 10,000 plus 500x should be equal to 8,000 plus 800x minus 1600. So we have 2600, 300x is equal to 3600. So x must be equal to 12 years. What is the question asking? How many years after Viru's investment, that is x years? X must be equal to 12 years, and that should be your answer. 12 years, and that should be your answer. So what are the key learnings from this? See, some squares and cubes will come in handy while calculating. Work with percentage and not absolute values or variables. This is something that I have said even in my previous episode. Break the question into smaller parts and attack, right? Compound interest is nothing but simple interest for 1 year, फिर एक amount मिला, उसके ऊपर simple interest another year, फिर एक amount मिला, उसके ऊपर simple interest another year. That is how compound interest works. That is successive increase, successive percentage increase essentially. So with that, that is the end of this video, guys. If you like the content that we are sharing with you, if you like the way we teach or the academic content that is there, please like and share our videos. Also subscribe to our channel to make sure that you don't miss out on any of these videos. Every Thursday I'll be here bringing to you some concepts of DILR or quant. Thank you. Thanks a lot.